So I was like, man, I hope in Tenet they just don't halt the brakes and like explain something super stupid in this movie. Then I watched the movie. About halfway through the movie, I was like,
I really wish they'd explain it.
I wish they should pump the brakes and understand so I can understand what the fuck's going on.
Yeah. I take back everything I said about that.
I'm a dummy. I'm sorry. Can
I'm
you
so
please
dumb.
tell me? Welcome to A Cast with No Name. We're your hosts. I'm Jay.
And I'm Matt.
This is episode 31. This episode, we will be discussing our top 5 most confusing movies that we have watched. Obviously, because movies we haven't watched aren't confusing.
That's right.
So
this is the head scratcher episode, huh?
Yeah. The what the fuck?
Yeah.
So
what's going on?
Yeah. But first, don't forget to visit our website, acastwithnoname.com, where you can comment on episodes and write to our email, which is contact.acastwithnoname@gmail.com. So as always, before we get into this, do you want to start with criteria?
Sure. Let's do that. And shout out to Nicole. We're doing this for you.
Yeah.
I got to admit, this was, I don't want to say painful, because that's not true. It was just very difficult to do because my number one, after I normally when I do this, I normally watch the movies again just to kind of solidify my thoughts. After watching what I knew would be my number one pick, I was like, I can't do this 4 more times.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
It's tough. I thought about 4 of the movies on my list I remember very well. One of them I was thinking about rewatching, and I thought about rewatching last night, and I saw the runtime of 2 hours and 20 minutes, and I was like, fuck that. I don't have time for that. I'm not doing it. I'm not putting in the work.
Right, but you remember why you were confused.
Exactly.
There you go.
So
I felt the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah. My number one, I can't do. I was like, I can't do it because there's a reason why it's confusing, and I don't like that feeling. I don't enjoy it. Mm-hmm. The movie. A couple on my list, I do enjoy the movie overall, but and we'll go into criteria. I thought the ending was confusing. Why would you end the movie that way? Kind of thing. But yeah, let's get into that. What were your criteria?
My criteria is I tried to pick a variety because I'm so smart. And
you're a goddamn genius.
My intelligence is so far superior to the average dumbass, if you will. The laid man. Is that what you say?
The laid man?
Yeah.
Wow, you are smart.
I am. It's so up there that you miss it if you're not paying attention. A lot of movies that I've seen haven't confused me. As always, I do like, what are some of the confusing movies that people think of? And so I hit up Google. I was like, what do people find confusing? And there was stuff on there like The Matrix, which when it first came out, I can kind of see, but it's not confusing anymore.
No, definitely not.
There was other movies like Interstellar, and I'm like, how is that confusing? Or there's a lot of movies on that list, being John Malkovich. I'm like, that's not confusing. It's like, I didn't feel it confused me at all when I first watched it.
The central themes in those movies in particular are different. I guess they stand out for movies at the time. Mm-hmm. But you're right. They're not... You can follow the story and the plot, and you understand what's going on.
Yeah. And I kind of gravitated towards movies that I've watched, but 2 movies that when it's still not really clear cut what the hell happened, people still kind of talk about it today. But I have different varying degrees. So I have one movie that, there's, I think 2 or 3 movies on this list confused me when I first watched it. After rewatching them, there was something in the movie that at least made it possible for me to draw my own conclusion. Whether if that is the same conclusion that someone else has, doesn't matter. It's just that there was enough content there in the film that kind of was at least able to guide me to my own conclusion.
Right.
But I didn't pick unbelievably just bad movies that were sloppily put together, like, oh, what happened to this subplot? And I didn't do that because that's just poor filmmaking as opposed to being either purposely confusing or purposely thought-provoking.
Correct.
In that sense.
Okay.
So,
I like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, same thing. All the movies on my list, I mean, they're very, from a filmmaking perspective, they're well done. But either the ending itself, it ended on a note that didn't make sense, very confusing. I'm trying to connect why you would end on that way, and you could have either just cut that scene out altogether.
I think I know what you're thinking because I think it's on my list too.
Okay. Or you could have just rewritten the scene that you ended on. Especially the number 5 on my list that I'll kick off. I don't know what kind of point they were trying to make. It seems like it was just something that was thrown in there because they felt like they had to say it, and for whatever reason they put it in this movie. But anyway, that, and if just the plot itself, I couldn't follow it. I was trying to understand the mechanics and the central themes in the movie to drive the plot forward. If that was confusing or I didn't understand it, and I'm going like 5 minutes behind the movie to try to figure out why we're here where we are now, that I would have to rewatch it again and again. And if I don't get it by like the second or third viewing, then it's lost. It's lost. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Well, do you want to go first?
Sure.
Okay. What's your number 5?
My number 5 is Killing Them Softly.
Oh, okay.
You ever seen that movie?
I have not.
It stars Brad Pitt.
Spoilers abound, people.
Yes.
So.
This came out in 2012, so I mean, if you haven't seen Killing Them Softly, you've had 10 years to watch it. But essentially, it's about 3 small-time crooks who rob a mob-protected illegal gambling operation, which prompts the mob to send 2 hitmen, Jackie, played by Brad Pitt, and Mickey, played by James Gandolfini, to deal with the perpetrators. Again, directed by Andrew Dominik. I don't know if you've ever seen his movies. He did The Assassination of Jesse James by the Coward Robert Ford.
That's always been on my watch list, and I've just never been around to watching it.
Right, okay, and he did that movie with Tom Hardy. Wait, no, I'm thinking of Nicholas Winding Refn. Never mind. He did a movie with Eric Bana. I can't remember what it's called. Let me look it up here. But anyway, The Assassination of Chopper. Chopper's the one with Eric Bana, which is kind of just a character study film. It's like an hour and 45 minutes, and then he does The Assassination of Jesse James by the Coward Robert, the longest title in the history of film, and it's like a 2 hour and 45 minute, again, character study that's beautifully shot, long, drawn out, scenes of dialogue between 2 characters. It's very a slow burn, but it's very well done. This movie is like an hour and 25, 30 minutes and change. It's very quick. It's very much of your typical like crime neo thriller with hitmen. It's essentially what it is. And then he just did Blonde, which is one of the worst movies that I've seen this year. It's awful. Again, so he's hit or miss.
Yeah.
He's a good filmmaker, but he's just out there sometimes. And this is definitely, the movie's pretty good. It's your typical, like I said, gangster hitman movie. Brad Pitt's just going through the motions of trying to track down these 3 guys who decided to rob a mob boss's gambling game. And they one of them is Ben Mendelsohn. He's really good in the movie. But so they get the idea to rob that mob boss from that mob boss's the mob boss whose card game that they're stealing from.
This is fucking confusing.
Exactly. The mob boss's gambling game that they're robbing from, his name is Mickey, and it's played by Ray Liotta. He did it prior to his own gambling game. He stole money from his own game and blamed it on somebody else. And then the 3 guys that robbed it in this movie got the idea from him, and they thought that the mob would blame it on Mickey again because he's done it already. And Brad Pitt catches on to that. He's like, oh, I know who did it. It's these guys, because they got the idea that they thought that they could screw over Mickey because he did it before.
Yeah.
So anyway, he's hired by the mob to just take out Mickey, Ray Liotta's character, and then the 3 hitmen to kind of level set the mob playing field. We got to quit this shit out. We got to knock it out. That's the story. Okay? So it gets all that culminates into the final scene in the bar where Jackie, played by Brad Pitt, is there to collect money by Richard Jenkins, who's the guy who hired him to do the job. Okay, so that's the movie. It leads up. He kills everybody. Brad Pitt's there to collect his money at the bar. And then the movie ends with this scene, which I'm going to play for you now.
You are a cynical bastard, you know that?
To reclaim the American dream and reaffirm that fundamental truth that out of many we are one.
You hear that line? Line's for you. Don't make me laugh. We're one people. It's a myth created by Thomas Jefferson. Oh, now you never go with Jefferson, huh? My friend, Jefferson's an American saint because he wrote the words, all men are created equal. Words he clearly didn't believe since he allowed his own children to live in slavery. He was a rich wine snob who was sick of paying taxes to the Brits. So yeah, he wrote some lovely words and aroused the rabble, and they went out and died for those words. While he sat back and drank his wine and fucked his slave girl. This guy wants to tell me we're living in a community. Don't make me laugh. I'm living in America, and in America, you're on your own. America's not a country. It's just a business. Now fucking pay me.
So that's how it ended?
That's how it ended. Cut to black. So when I watched that initially, I was thinking to myself, what were they trying to say based off what I just watched? I watched a typical mob movie about hitmen killing each other, and then it ends on some sort of political soliloquy. I kind of understand what they were trying to make the parallel of during that time. That was the recession, Obama got elected and all that stuff, and Brad Pitt's essentially saying that, you know, there's no morals. It's a business. It is what it is. I don't care what your underlying motivations are. I did a job. I don't care who gets hurt. Now fucking pay me. That's pretty much what he said. But it's just an odd context, an odd scene to end on based off what you witnessed the previous hour and a half.
This is my butthole talking because I haven't seen the movie. And
Sure.
the only thing I've saw or heard of it is the clip that you just played.
Yep.
To where maybe they were drawing parallels to where I don't know how vicious Brad Pitt was in this movie.
Yep.
To where if they were trying to kind of draw parallels between what he does and people in power, to where, oh, these people are making their living on the streets, doing things underneath the government radar or whatever, but then just kind of drawing parallels that we're all the same kind of thing, to where some people just do it out in the open and other people kind of do it in the shadows. Just because he's on TV spouting off a lovely speech to get people enthused and everything, he's doing the exact same shit, just in a different way. Same reason that our founding fathers did the exact same shit. They would just say something, but in the shadows they were doing something else, to where maybe saying everyone's all the same just because I'm not a bad person. I'm just a person in this country like everybody else.
Yeah. I get what you're saying there. I think because in the movie, Brad Pitt is, I mean, he's your typical hitman. He the reason it's called Killing Them Softly is that's how he likes to kill people in the shadows when they're not seeing it coming. That's
okay.
So, again, this goes back to why it's confusing. Like, there's your explanation, and there's
like, what point was the director trying to make, or the
Right.
writer trying to make when he wrote that scene? Like, what was the purpose of it?
right, exactly.
Yep.
I think he was trying to say that, yeah, like he said, America is a business. Like, this is a business transaction. You're trying to screw me over. We have principles. I have principles. The guy that's talking on the TV claims to have principles, and our founding fathers have claimed to have principles, but they end up being hypocrites and fucking the little guy over anyway. You're not going to do that to me with this transaction. Now pay me, kind of thing. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
It was just weird.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just one of those movies, too, where it just fades to black, and you're expecting something else, like a following scene or something. I thought it would have ended to where Brad Pitt's character would have, like, killed Richard Jenkins, and then because he got screwed over, and then another scene where he goes to kill the guy who hired Richard Jenkins to hire him. Because based off how everything else was happening, Brad Pitt's character, Jackie, was doing his own thing to justify the means of getting the job done.
Got you.
Yeah. So it didn't circle the loop there.
Yeah, I wonder, and again, I don't know if the person who wrote or the director, if it was more on the nose in the first draft, and they're like, oh, it's just not working. Let's make it more obscure, or like, let's give the audience some kind of credit to come to this conclusion just from the scene as opposed to explicitly saying it.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Or they were just trying to, this movie came out 4 years after Obama was elected and the recession hit and ruined a lot of people's lives. Maybe you just wanted to comment on that and wanted to throw it in there. I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know. That's why it's number 5, Jay.
Got ya. All right.
There you go.
My number 5 is Stanley Kubrick's The Shining.
Ooh.
So I have 4 on my list. I like The Shining, and
I was going to ask you, do you enjoy it?
yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I like it a lot. Except for the last shot, which the
What is the
camera's
last
going
shot?
down the hallway, and it has you see the wall of all these pictures.
That's right.
And the camera kind of pushes into this picture in 1925, and you see Jack Nicholson there at a party smiling, and it was like New Year 1925.
Yeah.
And the movie takes place in the
70s, 80s, yeah.
And
What was that for?
Just ends on like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, what? It doesn't. No.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It didn't need to be in there.
I can see that.
It didn't make the movie better. It didn't make it. I guess it just left it on a confusing note, because leading up to the movie, it's a good story on somebody slowly losing their mind.
Right.
From seclusion and dealing with either writer's block or whatever.
And the hotel itself being haunted, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Succumbing
you had a
to
pretty
that.
straightforward story that was great, and they had some weird parts in there, like
Oh, yeah.
the blowjob bear, the zombie lady getting out of the bath, just like, but it fit in the horror sense. And yeah, they had a couple of scenes and when he's sitting at the bar and he's like, "Oh, you've always been here," kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But then they end on the photograph, and I'm like, okay, but so he was a ghost
The whole time? Yeah.
the whole time, had a child, got married, all of that.
Or was he the offspring? Like the son, the great-grandson of the guy in the photo? Yeah.
Whatever they were trying to tell wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
And I put that as my number 5 just because it was a small, tiny thing. Just at the very end, if they could have ended it before that shot, it would have been fine.
Right.
And yeah, that last shot wasn't needed. Don't know why it was in there.
Yep.
It's not like it was a last, oh shit, that's what it all meant, and then cut the black, kind of a gotcha thing. It wasn't any of that. It was just a random thing
Yeah.
that was in the movie that don't understand why it was in there, don't know what the purpose he was trying to make. And I don't know if it's explained in the book at all. I haven't read the book. Doesn't matter if it's explained in the book or not,
Yeah.
because you're making a movie.
Yeah.
And so if you want to have something in the movie, then it needs to make sense.
Yeah.
To where I'm not one of those people, oh, why'd that character do that? Well, in the book he did, nope, you can't do that. Like, you need to explain it in the movie. It needs to be, characters need to be formed and decisions need to be supported by things that happen in the movie.
Right. That's why they're called adaptions.
Correct.
Yeah.
So you can't fit everything in the book. You pick and choose what you can use. You throw it in there. If you throw something in there to where, now you could throw tiny little fan service things in there for people who have read the book, but but that's like tiny things that a normal viewer who hasn't read the book wouldn't
Notice.
And but yeah, so not a big deal. Still enjoy the movie. I still watch it a lot.
It's one of the best horror movies ever made.
Yeah, and
very good.
It's just that last shot is like, what is that? Why?
You're right. It is confusing.
So
have you ever seen Room 237?
Yes.
Yeah.
And yeah,
That just goes through all the theories of why he made the movie.
Yeah,
and what it's about.
That's a little
A little off.
That's a lot of neck.
What do you think,
with
Jay?
A lot of time on their hands.
Jay, do you think it's about the Native American genocide?
Jesus. The
Or the fake moon landing? That was one.
yeah.
There's a couple more.
Yeah,
So back to your so Room 237 is a documentary basically about everyone's theories about The Shining. Why Stanley Kubrick is a genius and did calculus in his spare time. He was getting bored with filmmaking, and everyone was at the time was wondering why he would decide to adapt a Stephen King novel, The Shining, because a lot of theories out there he was just bored, and this is like, yeah, I'll just make a movie out of a horror novel. Like, yeah, people won't expect that out of me, and I'll have subvervent themes in it.
Mm-hmm.
Submersive. Submissive.
Submissive.
I don't know, I'm not good with words.
Subservient.
I'm pretty dumb. Underlining things.
Subtextual.
Yeah. Ooh, subtext. Anyway, non-obvious themes.
Yeah.
So
Fool
dumb.
me once,
Well,
shame on me.
Fool me once. Shame on you. Fool me twice. Can't get fooled again.
Yeah, you're not gonna fool me again.
Oh man. So one of the theories was he wanted to make a movie that if you overlaid it going forwards and backwards, like there would be some sort of like symbiosis.
Yeah, symmetry or
Right. So the opening shot of the movie is the winding roads and the credits roll, and that syncs up with like the credits of the end. The long shot to the picture you're talking about at the end centers perfectly on the close up to the hotel. Like Jack Nicholson's face is perfectly aligned with the hotel shot at the end, and then the not cutaways. What's the word? The transition scenes are perfectly into the hotel lobby. All that shit. It's very interesting. I don't know if that's what he was intending to do. It's kind of like you play the record backwards and the Kiss record backwards, and it's like or the Beatles. What is that?
Yeah, Paul is dead.
And all that shit.
Yeah, also the Dark Side of the Moon syncing up with the Wizard of Oz.
Right.
So it's just coincidences that were found by people that had a lot of time because,
like you said, neckbeards
that had nothing else to do, and they wanted to find extra meaning. I'm sure maybe some of the things they covered in the documentary maybe was something that he intended.
Yeah.
But I think it's...
I mean, they make some compelling arguments.
Yeah. And it's a documentary, but like that could be manipulated so easily.
Oh, yeah,
to fit their... whatever they're saying, and like no one's going to double check the documentary. Like someone who watched the documentary will be like, huh, that's interesting, except for maybe some guy over here that was like, I'm going to test out all those things and like research all that stuff and see if it actually holds water.
Yep.
But
that's what makes him so polarizing, though. He was pretty smart, and he is a pretty talented, one of the best filmmakers that has ever lived. Mm-hmm. I almost put 2001 on my list, but it didn't make it.
No.
So yeah. Anyway,
but yeah,
good pick. I agree with you.
Number 5.
That ending is kind of
small thing, and in that confusing aspect of it, it doesn't ruin the film at all.
Not at all.
So if you haven't seen it, watch it. It's still a good movie.
It's very good.
It doesn't diminish it. It's just kind of like, why is that in there?
Yeah.
But there's a couple of things in there that are like, why is that in there? But you kind of go with it because it works with the rest of the movie. So.
Right. I feel the same way about my next pick.
Okay.
But see The Shining, and then after that watch Dr. Sleep, because Dr. Sleep's actually
it's pretty good.
Very good movie. Mm-hmm. It's a good sequel to that movie too. Shout out to Mike Flanagan. Yes. He's great. All right. My number 5 is...
number 4.
Sorry, my number 4.
Number 4.
Gee, see, I told you.
You're so smart.
I'm so smart. No Country for Old Men.
Okay.
Again, love the movie. I mean, I'm sure most people have seen No Country for like The Shining.
I've seen it. I've only seen it once.
Okay.
So, I guess what do you find confusing in it?
Okay. Do you remember the overall story?
Yeah, it was a typical Joel and Ethan Coen movie.
Right.
And
Llewellyn, played by Josh Brolin, stumbles upon a drug deal gone bad. He steals the money from the drug dealers because they're all dead. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the drug dealers want their money, the cartel or whoever, and they hire a hitman played by Javier Bardem to track down the money.
Yep.
And that's all it is. It's Javier Bardem tracking down Josh Brolin.
Yep.
That's it. So anyway, again, doesn't diminish the movie, but the ending with Tommy Lee Jones's last line of dialogue is just very an odd way to end that movie. Okay, let me set this clip up. So the movie ends with Tommy Lee Jones, who's trying to find Llewellyn, Josh Brolin's character, because he's the sheriff investigating the crime. It ends with he's at the kitchen table talking to his wife, and he said, "I had some dreams last night." And then his wife asked him, "Can you tell me your dreams?" And that's where
All right, then. Two of them both had my father in them. It's peculiar. I'm older now than he ever was by 20 years. So, in a sense, he's the younger man. Anyway, the first one I don't remember too well, but it was about meeting him in town somewhere, and he gave me some money. I think I lost it. The second one, it was like we was both back in the older times, and I was a horseback going through the mountains of the night, going through this pass in the mountains. It was cold, and there was snow on the ground. He rode past me and kept on going, never said nothing going by, just rode on past. And he had his blanket wrapped around him, his head down. When he rode past, I seen he was carrying fire in a horn, the way people used to do, and I could see the horn from the light inside of it, about the color of the moon. And in the dream, I knew that he was going on ahead. He was fixing to make a fire somewhere out there, and all that dark, and all that cold. And I knew that whenever I got there, he'd be there. And then I woke up.
And that's it. It's so confusing. Such a weird way to end that movie. I remember watching it in the movie theater, thinking, God, this is one of the best movies I've seen this year. And then it ended that way, and I'm thinking, what? Why? Why would you end it that way? That doesn't make any sense to me. It's so weird. What do you think? What was the purpose of that story? Why would you end it that way?
You'll have to remind, because I saw this. When did it come out? It was like
2007.
2000. Jesus.
Yeah. Did you feel old? Doesn't it feel like that movie came out like 5 years ago?
I think I saw it in 2008.
Yeah.
Was Tommy Lee Jones in it quite a bit? I mean, he was like the lawman that was just kind of investigating everything. Correct?
Yeah. He found out that Josh Brolin's character stole the money, and the cartel was after him. And he was kind of in the wake of all the bodies that Javier Bardem was leaving behind him. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know. I'd almost have to watch it again to see if there was some kind of parallel that they were drawing with whatever the movie. Because I mean, it could have been based on his dreams, based on what he experienced in that story, and just kind of trying to make sense of it all. To where maybe he was looking at himself as far as different paths he could have gone. You don't know why his father's died before him. It could have more than likely health issues, but maybe his father was wrapped up in something that was wrong. Maybe it wasn't. It could have just been, I don't know. I'd have to watch it again to where
I've watched it, like, it's one of my favorite Coen Brothers movies. I've seen it probably 5 or 6 times because the movie itself is great. I mean, Javier Bardem is awesome in it. And it's well-paced, it's well-made, it's just a great movie. And I still can't figure out what the parallel is with that story, with the overall theme of the movie. Because in the movie, Tommy Lee Jones has numerous scenes where he mentions like a newspaper story of a guy killing like 13 people, most women and kids, and he just can't understand what's happening in the world, how someone could be so violent with no rhyme or reason for doing what they're doing. It's not like the old times. So it's something related to that, to where he doesn't understand the violence in the world today. He doesn't understand decisions and why they're made today, because there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason for why people do what they do. He doesn't think that people have morals anymore, and they're kind of just flying by the seat of their pants, trying to just making decisions just based purely on personal gain.
And I mean, that could have been just what the dream was about then. It was just him remembering his father, to where when he talks about him riding up ahead, to where when he was younger, it made sense, to where his father left him up ahead, he knew that he would be there waiting for him when he got there.
Mm-hmm.
To where there was a right and a wrong, and he could rely on things and understand things. He could understand why his father would get mad if he lost money that after he gave it to him. I mean, maybe something to do with that. But again, the Coen brothers typically, they kind of end it in their movies just kind of with a little piece of dialogue. Like Fargo, you had Frances McDormand driving Ungantine.
Driving what?
I say Ungantine. That was a line he had when he cut his hand when he broke into Jerry's house to kidnap his wife. But when she's driving the patrol car and has the guy in the back, and they kind of have a little dialogue. It's a little bit. It's like, oh, it's a beautiful day, and it's just kind of a low key conversation. Same thing like Big Lebowski, to where they spread Donnie's ashes, and then Walter goes on and says something, and then dude kind of gets irritated. It's like, what? And then they talk, and then it just kind of ends.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it was as simple as, this is what this guy sees every day, and all this shit he found that as he was walking through the wake of all this destruction, he goes home, wakes up. Oh, I had a couple of dreams. Maybe he's seen it so much that it didn't affect him because he didn't dream of it or something, to where it's just the life that he's living in, to where he's around all this death and destruction, and it's gotten to the point it doesn't affect him.
Yeah. I thought about it. Maybe it's he said his dad's out there in the cold and the dark starting a fire, and he knew he was there waiting for him. I didn't know if he thought maybe he's thinking, did I do enough to prevent all this chaos and all these atrocities that I've been investigating? Am I doing enough? Is that my dad waiting to judge me before I go into the next life or whatever? I thought that maybe might be what they're trying to.
But was he wrestling with any kind of aspect like that before, or like throughout the movie? Like, was he questioning him, like, oh, should I be doing more?
No, you didn't get that feeling.
So then so that's why I say I would almost have to watch again and look at the minute details of his character in that movie, because drawing a conclusion like that to where there was no kind of pretense for that feeling, to where, unless he felt inadequate or what he was doing was inadequate. If there's no sense of that previously, then I doubt that's what that would be.
Or maybe it's just, like he said, he doesn't understand why people do these violent things that they do with no rhyme or reason. So the Coen brothers wanted to end the movie on, I don't know what he's saying. Just you figure it out.
Shit happens in the world.
Yeah,
what are you gonna do?
Exactly. It could be as simple as that too. I don't know. But Tom Lee, the way he says it in his performance when he's saying it, it's very. He's good at delivering dialogue. So
nice. Yeah.
But it is confusing. Anyway, that's my number 4.
Number 4.
Yeah.
My number 4, another Stanley Kubrick movie, 2001: Space Odyssey.
Speak of the devil. This is going to be a top 5 Stanley Kubrick movies, confusing movies, one and the same.
Number 3, Eyes Wide Shut. Not enough titties.
Confusing.
I'm confused why there's not more titties.
Why isn't there more orgy scenes in this movie?
But yeah, number 4, 2001: Space Odyssey, and
almost made my list.
Yeah, and give a quick synopsis. I'm sure everyone's seen it. After uncovering a mysterious artifact buried beneath the lunar surface, a spacecraft is sent to Jupiter to find its origins. A spacecraft manned by 2 men and the supercomputer HAL 9000. Classic. Definitely worth watching. This is another movie to where the ending did not ruin it for me.
Yeah.
And the movie starts off, you see primitive man, and then they come in contact with a solid black slab, the monolith.
Yeah.
And the primitive man, which are like, I don't know, not monkeys, but like
Neanderthals?
No, it's like before that. It was like, they come in anyways, these monkeys come in contact with this monolith, and it kind of gives them the inspiration for tools.
Yeah.
And one monkey grabs a bone and hits over the head another monkey and kills him. And it kind of creates the advent of the use of tools. Then it flashes forward to, I think it's like 1990. It's sometime in the future.
Yeah.
A guy
30 or
is
40
heading.
years.
Guy is heading to the moon base, and on the moon they find another monolith, and they have it excavated and everything else. And you're like, oh, what does this mean? And then the movie jumps forward again to where now there's a mission of two people and the spacecraft computer HAL are on their way to Jupiter because they're receiving a signal.
Yep.
And flash forward, great sequences with the two men trying to battle AI on the computer, because the computer is programmed to do something and was programmed to complete its mission. And then on the way to Jupiter, they get to Jupiter, they encounter another monolith, and then it kind of goes into a nice plaid 60s montage of randomness up until the very end. And you see a giant space baby.
There's definitely a Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory sequence there with all the plaid and stuff.
Yeah, and so I put that in there because no one really knows what's going on. I read the book.
Yeah.
And I read the book once. If it gave me any insight, I've long forgot about it because I've read other books since then. So, but just based on the movie, it didn't diminish it for me at all. It kind of left it open to interpretation. What I got from after watching it and after experiencing a monolith, another jump of evolution occurred for a human life form, or for our life form, to where he kind of experienced the rest of his life. Like, this is kind of the way I kind of read into it. He experienced the rest of his life while at the same time being reborn into a different being. But he experienced all of that at once, and he watched himself experience that to where he almost transcended it to a different dimension.
Right.
And a different phase of existence. That's kind of what I got out of it. I put it as number 3? No,
number 4.
Number 4.
Yeah.
Because I still like to watch it.
Yeah, I do too.
It doesn't, I've already said it, doesn't take away anything. It's a nice discussion movie to where it's not so confusing that it just completely obliterates the movie. Like, oh, what's the point?
Yeah.
Because it does enough to build up the world and the setting. It gives you enough to where you can kind of almost write your own ending. But isn't so obscure throughout the whole movie to where you're like, what the fuck did I just watch?
Yeah.
Kind of a thing.
It's kind of like Interstellar in a little bit, where he goes into that dimension where he can communicate in the past.
Yeah.
With, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the fourth dimension, was it?
It's like a library.
Time, I think.
Something.
Yeah, it was
he enters the black hole and he gets into this other reality where he can communicate. Yeah.
Yeah.
In the past.
It had the same name as the Thing in the Avengers.
The Tesseract.
Tesseract.
Tesseract. Is it Tesseract or Tesseract? Tesseract. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit like that, to where, and that's kind of what I thought. Because the first time I watched it, I think I was in high school the first time I saw this movie, and I was just kind of like taken aback by like, all right, I guess that happened. Watched it a couple more times in college, and then as I kept watching it more and more, I just kind of started learning new things and just experiencing life to where, I mean, I just kind of came to that conclusion. Maybe in 30 years when I watch it again, I'll think of something else or come to a different conclusion.
I just saw it for the first time this past year. I really liked it, specifically it's one of those movies where you can't believe it was made in the time that it was made.
Can you see why people think that Stanley Kubrick filmed this?
The moon landing?
And why people think that? Because this came out a year before the moon landing.
Absolutely.
And it looks amazing.
It looks very good. It's pretty incredible.
I think it's like one of 2 movies I have on 4K.
I mean, this came out
68.
9 years before Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Mhm.
It looks really good, and in a lot of aspects, it looks better than Star Wars.
Mhm.
Honestly. But remind me, why? I know that Hal kind of rebels and does his own thing, but why does he do that again? What was Dave trying to do? I can't remember.
Dave, I believe he wanted to. I think he wanted to go explore. It was either a distress signal or he wanted to get closer, and Hal did not want that to happen. Well, I think Hal wanted to go to the monolith to get the monolith, I believe.
Oh, Hal wanted to,
and
Dave didn't want to do that.
Well, I think shit was just happening to where the 2 astronauts were like, we gotta, because I think the rest of the crew died.
Yeah. I think Dave was trying to save them, if I remember right.
And to where, yeah, whatever it was. I mean, last time I saw it was probably 4 or 5 years ago. But I get so lost in it that I don't care the reasoning. I can't do that, Dave.
Yeah, I can't do that, Dave. Yeah. Huh.
But
You're right. Yeah. I don't honestly don't know what the ending means, which is why it was almost on the list.
And that's why I mean, whatever it is supposed to mean, I feel like it's supposed to be inexplicable.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's what kind of led me to the. I mean, what did you think first time you saw it? As far as what?
Well, first I thought, what, what's going on? But yeah, going back to the previous themes of, the monolith and the monkeys, and they get the inspiration to use tools. So some sort of human evolution. There's that, and then so how does that correlate with them finding it on the moon? What sort of evolutionary technological jump was made from
or
that
was it just
moment?
like a tablet? Yeah.
Yeah. And then because Hal wasn't on the ship to the moon, or wasn't right. So I'm assuming from them finding it on the moon, they developed artificial intelligence, which then cascades them over to Jupiter to find that. And then where I'm confused is, okay, so we're using that pattern. What technological jump are they making for the monolith orbiting Jupiter, which goes to your point with maybe they just transcended like a different dimension to where it's not necessarily technological.
It's just a different plane of existence.
Right, correct.
Yep.
I think you're right there.
So that, or it's just a waypoint to be able to join, because I mean, I think theories like aliens put it there, or maybe ourselves put it there to guide ourselves to get to that point in life. And I mean, I think I've heard several different theories, but from what I can remember, I think it was like aliens or something like that,
okay,
if I remember correctly. But
I didn't know this was adapted from a book. I had no idea.
Yeah, Arthur C. Clarke. So there was, I think, 3 of them.
Oh, so it's a series.
Yeah, they did. I don't. There's a sequel to this movie, 2010, The Year We Make Contact.
I've never seen that.
That has Roy Scheider. I started watching that because I had never seen it, and I didn't finish it.
Was that bad?
It wasn't bad. It was just, it's dated.
Okay.
And because I think the sequel was made in the 70s, and it just wasn't. It wasn't as good.
Gotcha.
Or it wasn't as engrossing.
Well, you don't have Stanley Kubrick directing it.
Yeah,
so
true. Yeah,
it's not. There you go.
So that was my number 4.
Good pick.
Your number 3?
My number 3. I'm trying to remember here. Primer.
That's stupid. You didn't understand that? Fucking dummy.
Do you know what movie I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. So yeah, Primer. Essentially, it's very low. It's a low budget movie. I don't know if a lot of people have actually seen it or even know about it, but
It's pretty good. It came out in what,
2004.
2004?
Yeah. Essentially, it's about 2 guys that accidentally develop time travel in their garage. That's what it's about. Very low budget. Shane Carruth directed it, I think, for $7,000. He wrote it, starred in it, cut it, did the music, pretty much everything he had to do himself. They had to, actually, when they were filming it, they had to be so precise with what they were going to say, how they were going to say it, how they were going to shoot it, because they didn't have enough film.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, they had they couldn't shoot rolls and rolls.
Yeah.
And finish it up in the editing suite.
Exactly.
You had to be very deliberate as far as your.
Yep. Yep. Which is incredible. I mean, to make a movie like this for $7,000 is just, I don't know how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Even in 2004, adjusting for inflation, it's very. So it's got that appeal to it. It's got that like charm. I like movies like that that are just because there's movies that are made for hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars that are way worse than this movie.
Yeah.
So anyway, why it's confusing? Essentially, I mean, I understand the movie, the plot. The plot is they develop time travel. They know they can go back in time for 6 hours, and their purpose of doing that is they can get tips on the stock market so their future self can make stock buys to beat the market so they can get rich.
Back to the Future Part 2.
Exactly. Pretty much. And that's why it's number 3, is because I understand the plot of the movie. It's just the like Back to the Future, for example.
The mechanism. Wrapping your head around the
Thank
actual time travel to where they escape their little pod. Like, because there's a scene in the movie.
Yeah.
It was like the first time they do it, the guy gets out of his little pod and he's like, don't open the door. Like, it's kind of like a tent.
Yeah.
So they get out of the tent, they zip it up, if you will, and as soon as they zip it up, the person who's actually done it before tells his partner, he's like, hey, don't open your tent. Mm-hmm. He's like, what? Why? He's like, because you're in there.
Right.
Like, already. So, yeah, there's some concepts in there that, like, when you first watch it, it's like, wait, what? You almost, like, want to pause it and just think about it. But they do, they do kind of explain.
Try to.
Yeah.
It's really hard to follow.
Yeah. They describe what's happening. But, yeah, it's a little, you have to bend your mind a little bit because you're thinking about things that you're not used to thinking about.
Right.
Because everyone thinks about things linearly, which is why time travel stories, they usually fall under like 3 tropes that are easy to understand. And Primer, I think, it was one of the first ones to where it was kind of playing it with a more plausible sense to where it was it would be confusing first time watching it, especially if, I know the first time I watched it, it was, I enjoyed that scene. That's the scene that sticks out to me the most, just because it was so unique, a unique way to think about time travel.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, like Back to the Future, it's so easy to understand the mechanism of, it's a flux capacitor. You go 88 miles per hour. You're back in time,
and you're separated by years,
right,
or minutes, or whatever. You're separated by enough time to where you're able to separate things from happening,
right?
As opposed to the 6 hours time frame, to where, whoop, you're still in the tent, but that's your previous self.
And the thing that where I struggle with this movie, and a lot of time travel movies do this, is like, okay, I get the loop, I get that you're in the tent, but the loop had to start somehow. Mm-hmm. So
the paradox,
there's a loop, I get it, I get the loop, but you got to start the loop somehow, and that's where I'm trying to figure that out watching the movie. Every time I watch it, like every couple of years, because I just like it. But I still don't. And then it's one of those few movies too where it's not afraid of the technical jargon. Yeah. So I'll play a clip here just to give you a taste of the type of dialogue you hear in the movie.
Yep.
How many minutes is that? That's 1,347 minutes. Okay, yeah, 1,347. You got that? Why is it odd? How did you know it was odd? Okay, because this is it. Okay, this is what's going on. There's an AN and there's a BN. Okay, let's say the AN is 12 o'clock. The BN is 12:01. All right, we start the machine with the Weeble at the AN. It travels forward normally. You gotta write this down. Hey, Aaron, there's nothing to write down. Well, then I'm writing it. Okay, fine. Look, it travels forward normally towards the BN, and when it gets there, the feed runs down parabolically until it's just stopped, but it doesn't. It curves back around towards the AN. And when it gets back to the AN, now curve that around. Okay, now the Weeble has experienced a total of 2 minutes. And again, it curves back around. It curves parabolically. Right, so it comes back around again, and it does this about 1,300 times, and when it finally exits on the BN, it's traveling an odd number of forward and backward trips.
Oh, what is so special about 1,300? And why is it about 1,300? Why isn't it exact? This is not empirical.
Here, give me that. Yeah, I don't know why it's not exact. There's some sort of probability there. Okay, every time it hits the BN, there's a chance, okay, a small chance it won't curve back around towards the AN. And for some reason, it takes about 1,300 trips before it finally does. But it does have to exit, or else we wouldn't be able to see it afterwards. Okay, let's take a look at this. Yep.
So, I mean, that's not even the most technical clip I could find, but it's just like A and B and the Weeble, you know, 13. It's just
it goes back parabolically 1,300 times.
That's not empirical. You don't have to write it down. It's like, oh my god, it's just chaos. You know, like you're on cocaine or something.
Yeah, but I enjoy it because they don't give an explanation of black holes.
Right.
They don't poke the pencil
paper.
through the paper.
I know.
Or gravity. The more gravity you have, which that I like. They don't do that because other movies they tend to. You have astronauts explaining things to astronauts that astronauts should already be well aware of and already know.
Yeah. Yeah, that scene in Interstellar where the astronauts are talking and the paper scene, it's like,
gravity, because you have Matthew McConaughey explaining to physicists how gravitational pull affects time, and I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah. Wait a second. Oh wow.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know that until we were up here.
I'm the worst scientist ever.
Thank you for explaining that to me. Oh man, I thought we were in trouble for a second here. Glad you're here with us, millions of miles away from home. Yeah. Anyway, so that's why it's number 3 for me. I mean, just the mechanism of how the plot moves forward. It's just very hard to follow. It's confusing. You have to watch it multiple times to even minimally grasp the mechanics of what's going on. But it's enjoyable. I like the movie.
Yeah, it's good.
It's short.
Yep.
The ending's pretty good. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
It's like shout out to Chad. Gave me the recommendation to watch Coherence. This movie, Coherence, reminds me a lot of Primer. Just the low budget aspect, the out there idea, and then just the mechanics of what's going on. They're kind of similar movies.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, Chad, you'd like Primer.
You told me to watch that, and I made a note of it.
And you didn't do it.
Episode. Well, I haven't.
It's because you don't listen to me.
What?
You don't. Yeah. Wait, what? Excuse me.
All right. So that's your number 3.
That's my number
Primer.
3. Yeah.
Right.
Primer.
My number 3. I will not spend too much time on this because I already talked about it in our last top 5 of Halloween movies, which is Donnie Darko.
Oh.
And I'm going to touch on the high points again. Again, I'm talking about the original theatrical version of this movie, not the beat you over the head with the director's cut.
Yeah. Can you explain time travel to me again, Jay?
Yes, I can. If you want to hear a clip from that movie, go back and listen to our top 5 Halloween movies. But yeah, Donnie Darko came out in 2001, directed by Richard Kelly. And I picked this movie because it was confusing. I didn't know, by the end of the movie, I didn't know what had happened concretely or definitively.
Yep.
But it was really good filmmaking, great story, great acting, and it was very, very engaging, and engaging enough to, I think I watched it 2 times in a row the first time I saw it.
Ooh.
And loved it. I love talking about this movie just because it is a good conversation starter. It was a good thing.
So you picked up girls at parties?
Yeah, it's what I did. I was just creeping in the corner. I'm like, have you ever seen Donnie Darko?
Yeah. Can I get you a beer?
Yeah. Let's talk about parallel
Could you please tell me again about your theories on Donnie Darko? I'm really hot for you.
Yeah. Do you want to go upstairs? No, I want to finish us talking about this movie.
No, please discuss.
But people still kind of talk about it. I think more or less the mystery has been, at least for me, I think it's been explained enough by the writer, director, what actually happened.
To death, yeah.
So it's no longer confusing, but it was probably one of the more enjoyable movies that I've watched, to where by the end, I couldn't really tell you for sure what had happened. But they had enough different things going on in the movie that you could kind of draw different points to it. Now, I've said in previous episodes to where I hate movies to where it's weird just for the sake of being weird, or confusing for the sake of being confusing. This wasn't that, because the writer and director knew what he was doing, knew the story he was telling. He just didn't have some key elements in that movie, which I think worked because the character, Donnie Darko, I think by the end knew what was happening, but more or less, I feel like he was confused most of the time up until he read that book in the movie, the philosophy of time travel,
right,
or whatever. From that book, he understood what he had to do. From us as an audience, we weren't 100% sure. I think maybe Richard Kelly was so deep into the story, he thought the audience would grasp it. Just because, I mean, he knew exactly what it was. It's like he was too close to it, to where maybe he thought that audiences would have picked up on it more, which is why I think he came out with the director's cut. But I think it was so good as is that, because if it is too confusing, studios will be like, what the fuck's going on? You need to explain this better. But I think it was so good to where the producers were like, yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, it sparks conversation. Whatever. And
yeah, they don't need to fully understand it.
Yeah. And I think I didn't see the director's cut.
I haven't either.
From what I've seen clips of, like, he has excerpts of the book in there and stuff like that, which I don't know. I think it's kind of like some movies like this are kind of fun just to talk about. Oh, what do you think happened? What do you?
Yeah, they are.
But getting your clues from what was presented in the movie. And there was several different theories you could draw just from what was presented in the movie. I mean, they talk about God's will, they talk about parallel universes, they talk about time travel, but all those different things do add up to the definitive explanation of what actually happened, and which is why I give this movie a pass, because other movies that try to be confusing for the sake of being confusing, so the person can be like, well, it's just a...
It's how you interpret it.
Yeah, it's how you interpret it. And like, well, what did you mean by it? Well, I wanted the audience to... Nope, that's bullshit. Yep. So that means you didn't have a complete story, or you were bumblefucking around, or you just wanted to waste people's time. Like, I don't buy that excuse, to where there was an actual legitimate reason, which if you watch the movie and you're still confused, there's plenty of websites on the internet that explain it. I think there's screenshots you can find of the philosophy of time travel and stuff, but
yeah, you're right. The ending of that movie, you understood his motivations. You knew why he did it, why it ended that way. Mm-hmm. The ending made sense.
It explains everything. Yeah, right. Any question you had, the supplemental context. And again, I know earlier in this episode I just said, oh, if you adapt a book and something's in the book, you shouldn't have to read other media to be able to understand the movie. I guess I'm contradicting myself in this.
Wait, you're being confusing?
What? But I can do what I want.
I can do what I want.
But
I don't appreciate other people's explanations just for the sake of explaining things, Jay.
Yeah. But yeah, Donnie Darko, my number 3.
No, that's a good pick. All right. My number 2 is Tenet.
Hey.
Is that your number 2?
That's my number 2.
Get out of here.
It's my number 2.
Hey. See?
So why'd you pick it as your number 2?
It's just confusing. Again, the mechanism of the storyline. The plot itself is understandable. If you haven't seen Tenet, I know it came out a couple years ago, but spoiler alert. Essentially, it's about John David Washington plays a spy that tries to prevent a catastrophic event from the future from happening in the present. And then that's it. Mm-hmm. To get there, he has to use some sort of time travel method in order to prevent that from happening. And that lies where this movie is just... It's It's not like Interstellar or Inception, which are out there ideas, but I understood... Mm-hmm. Again, we keep saying mechanism. Like, I understood Dream Within a Dream for Inception. Yeah. I understood black holes and...
You understood the plot device and the narrative structure.
Thank you.
Yes.
Wow, you're very... God, you're so smart. I'm just a dummy.
Fucking moron.
I'm just a fucking mouth breather over here.
Over here drawing shit in crayons for you.
Yeah. I got those big crayons.
Fucking eating them, half chewed off.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just... This is the most... borderline insufferable, to where I've watched it 3 times now. I like the movie, but it's probably my least enjoyable Nolan movie because I just can't follow the mechanism in it. It's so insufferable sometimes.
So I have this as my number 2. I've only seen it once. If a movie gets too confusing for me, it'll either make me want to rewatch it or it's going to make me want to hate it. This movie kind of fell in the middle. I didn't hate it. I was kind of underwhelmed, or I guess whelmed.
You're whelmed?
I was whelmed.
I was whelmed.
Just because I was looking forward to a Christopher Nolan spy thriller.
Of course, yeah.
I enjoyed the movie. I will watch it again. I only saw it once. I think because this came out during COVID.
2020.
And so I saw it on my glorious 42-inch screen,
Ooh.
1080p.
Oh, yeah.
I got a window on my right, just,
Glaring in.
Glaring in.
Yeah. It's the same experience, right?
Yeah, exact same. I'll watch it again. I know I want to watch it when I have some time because it's a lengthy movie.
Yeah.
But
this is the first movie that me and Nicole watched. This was the first movie released after COVID.
Oh, that you
like
went
September
back to the theater?
2020.
Yep.
First movie we went to go see back in the theater because I wanted to watch it so bad. Yeah.
But it didn't sour the movie for me to where I wouldn't want to
watch it again.
Watch it again. We'll get to that one. But but no, I mean, I agree. I understand what they were doing, but there were certain scenes in there that, because we typically think things in a linear fashion as far as point A to point B, the scene where the car chase, right after the car chase, you had John David Washington going in on one side of the fence, and at the same time, it was like on the other side of the fence, they were going in reverse time, that he was chasing them. He was trying to get the girl that they had kidnapped at the same time. And it's like, wait a minute. Like, how did they start going backwards in time? I mean, it's...
Exactly. You get to this point where you're like...
There's a couple of scenes to where I'm like, wait a minute. So how is this supposed to work? And I would... The second time I watch it, I'll probably have to be by myself with a pencil,
some
and
notes,
some paper to like draw some pictures, or
some Excel spreadsheets,
like something that'll help me visualize what is actually happening.
Well, Christopher Nolan's a smart dude, and it took him 5 years to complete this script. And the script, not filming it, the idea in the script. So if he's...
I don't want to diminish people because I want to project stupidity on somebody else, but like, do you think he got to the point in the script to where he's like,
I've been working on this.
How do I make this work? Like, fuck it. I'm Christopher Nolan. Though.
Exactly. That might have happened. That could be plausible.
Because who was the who's the guy that he gets? Kip. There's like a Kip Thorne.
The Interstellar guy.
Yeah,
the physicist.
So I think he helped with this concept.
Okay.
Too. I could be mistaken though. He was like consultant or something like that. But
I do like that they spent $200 million on this concept.
Yeah, and
I like that.
And that's
go balls to the wall, man.
I will never be mad at movies like this that come out, especially with the two. I mean, and in my mind, I don't think Christopher Nolan can really do wrong, or I don't want to say he can do wrong, just because I like his big ideas and I like how he gets a massive budget for his original big ideas.
Yep.
And
he's literally the only one right now.
Yeah.
Which I am looking forward to Oppenheimer. I'm very excited about that.
Yeah.
Nice little biopic.
That'll be good. Jesus. I'm like, screw.
What?
I was trying to find like
Kip Thorne?
consultants or like a special thanks or something. Oh my God. Transportation department, additional crew. I don't know, but massive movie. It's, it is confusing.
Yeah. I have a clip I'm going to set this scene up.
Special thanks, Kip Thorne.
Kip Thorne. Old Kip. Kip, you didn't do your job. I'm sorry. I got us mouth breathers here don't understand what's going on.
Yeah.
But this clip I'm about to play, this is pretty well a good illustration of the confusion of what's going on. Basically, John David Washington is being explained entropy, reverse entropy, and the whole concept of time travel by a scientist in a lab with bullets. Mm-hmm. So here we go.
One of these bullets is like us, traveling forwards through time. The other one's going backwards. Can you tell which is which? How about now? It's inverted. Its entropy runs backwards, so to our eyes, its movement is reversed. We think it's a type of inverse radiation triggered by nuclear fission.
You didn't make it.
We don't know how yet.
So where did it come from?
Someone's manufacturing them in the future. They're streaming back at us. Try it. You have to have dropped it.
How can it move before I touch it?
From your point of view, you caught it. But from the bullet's point of view, you dropped it.
But cause comes before effect.
No, that's just the way we see time.
Well, what about free will?
That bullet wouldn't have moved if you hadn't put your hand there. Either way we run the tape, you made it happen.
Oh my God. Stop. See, I mean, the more I watch it, I'm just like, oh, give me a break. Sometimes it's like, all right, it's cool to look at, and it seems intriguing, but my brain just takes a massive shit on itself just trying to understand this.
Yeah.
The entropy is inverted. Well, how'd that happen? Hasn't happened yet. We don't understand. It's traveling back in time. Wait, how's that happening? Just go with it. Just go with it.
Here, pick up the bullet. First, you'd have to have dropped it. What?
But I didn't drop it yet. I haven't dropped it yet. Just act like you're. I want you to picture in your mind that you dropped it, and then it magically. Well, how does the bullet know that? How? Oh God. Anyway, yeah. This is like that's a minute clip, and it's like that throughout the entire movie. Mm-hmm. They have this this maneuver that they talk about called the introverted pincher maneuver, or whatever.
Yep.
Where they have, like the scene you're talking about, they have one scene going back in time, one scene going forward in time.
Mm-hmm.
One team does a mission. It's basically a way to do two things at once.
Yeah.
But you have to know if you're going back in time to do something, you have to know, and this is where it gets confusing. You have to know what happened in the future to know what you're going
to have to do in the
past. Yeah. It's
I remember watching this movie. There is a scene where John David Washington sits down with, was it the arms dealer?
Kenneth Branagh, who's awesome, by the way.
Wasn't him. It was the woman
that
he talks with on the balcony.
I know what you're talking about.
Before we started this movie, I heard that it was dealing with like time travel, or is kind of like a very heady movie. And what I was hoping for, I was like, I hope there's not a scene in here that just beats you over the head with shit that people probably know, like the scene in Interstellar.
Right, with the paper and the pencil.
With the paper and the pencil, and then the gravitational pull and how it affects
and the thing
and the effect on time dilation. Yeah. That was the only thing I really didn't like in that movie, was that scene. Because from my standpoint, I already knew it. It wastes time in the movie. Let's get past, like, if they would have just happened to where if they came up from the planet, it was like, shit, how long have we been gone? To where they didn't even talk about, or they could have just mentioned it, like, you're going to need to get down there quick and back because gravity is massive down there. They could have just left it at that, come back, and you're like, how long has it been? 24 years.
And you would understand. You'd get it.
You'd get it. And, but also if people are already aware of it and they said the gravity is massive down there, you need to be quick, then people who understood that beforehand would be like, oh, so time's going to be traveling a lot faster.
Right.
Outside of that area than it will be for him, or relative to his time. So I was like, man, I hope in Tenet they just don't fucking halt the brakes and like explain something super stupid in this movie. Then I watched the movie, and I thought that scene when he was talking to the woman on the balcony.
Did that?
No. I thought that's what it was going to lead to, and it didn't. But after I got done watching, or like I was like about halfway through the movie, I was like,
I really wish they'd explain it.
I wish they should pump the fucking brakes and understand so I can understand what the fuck's going on.
Yeah. I take back everything I said about that.
I'm a dummy. I'm sorry. Can
I'm
you
so
please
dumb.
Tell me?
But this is one of those movies where, like Kip Thorne, where I consider myself a smart guy. I'm like, are these people just fucking with us? Like, where they're just like, oh, you're thinking linearly. I mean, you think A to B, you got to think like inversion and loop, and your mind has to be in that aspect, or you won't get it. It's like you're telling me that confidently, like you know what you're talking about, but are you just doing that to seem smart, or do you actually know what you're talking about?
I bet when the movie was released and the reviews started coming out, of course, you're going to get some critics that just pander.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's a very groundbreaking, awesome movie, like acting like they understand. I imagine like Christopher Nolan and Kip Thorne like sitting in their pajamas the morning after. They're like eating cereal, reading the reviews online. They're like fucking laughing as they're pouring down their chin and shit.
Right.
Like these fucking dummies. He said he understood. You don't know what the fuck is going on. It's like it's bullshit. We fucking made it up. It means nothing.
2 + 2 = chair. They're writing it down.
Fucking idiots.
Yeah. Oh man, this movie.
But still,
it's enjoyable.
Yeah,
it is. I'd watch it again.
Robert Pattinson's good in it. John David Washington's good in it.
Yeah, Kenneth Branagh's awesome.
Yeah,
the best Russian accent from a Scot. Is he Scottish or is he English? I don't remember. Irish. Anyway, he's one of those.
He's got it. Maybe he's English. Fuck, I don't know.
He's up there with all the wig wearing.
He's in the
EU, or the pound is the currency, whatever. He talks all weird.
Yeah.
He's very good at the Russian accent.
Doesn't speak American.
Yeah, he don't speak American. But yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's confusing, but it's still worth a watch, and it's something that I will watch again in the future.
I will too. Yep.
And just because as a film, from a filmmaking aspect, I mean, whatever he makes is just...
It's very good.
So good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so...
Okay.
That's our number 2.
It's number 2.
So, it'll be your turn again.
Yes. My number 1 is the most insufferable movie I've ever watched.
Ooh.
I watched it again for this, and it's the reason why I didn't want to watch any other movies, because I can't stand this movie.
Hold on. I don't know what it is.
Okay.
Well,
it's weird.
I'll count to 3.
Okay.
And then we just say it.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Mulholland Drive.
Yep. Hey.
Hey, is that your number 1?
Yeah, that's my number 1.
So there's some sanity in this world.
So I was going to watch this last night, and I searched for it, and I found it on Amazon Prime. I was like, $3.99. Ugh. Because I watched this one time in college. I was like, I don't want to fucking waste $4 on this.
And you would be right.
And then I looked at the runtime, and it was like 2.5 hours. And I was like, fuck that. I'm going to bed. And, but yeah, I wanted to, I didn't need to rewatch any of the other ones.
Yeah.
I wanted to rewatch this one because I wanted to give it a fair shot.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I watched it, I was in college, and so you're surrounded by a bunch of pretentious other people that love film and movies.
Want to sound profound.
Yeah, and like, oh, Mulholland Drive.
Did you get it?
Oh, dude, it's awesome.
Did you love that scene with the
so
cowboy?
Good.
God.
And
so many ways that could be interpreted.
And I watched it once in college, and it irritated the shit out of me to where I never wanted to watch it again. I just, don't.
You'd be right.
I don't want to. I don't need to. And I saw the runtime, and I was like, God.
Not doing it?
Well, I wasn't going to do it. I might watch it again sometime.
To punish yourself?
In the future. Maybe. I don't know.
You can't make your mortgage. You're like, you know what? I'm watching Mulholland Drive.
I just want to see if I have a different response to it.
Yeah. I did. I sure did.
You talk about it. I can go on.
So I watched it when it first came out in 01. What was I, 16? And I just thought it was weird, but I thought I understood it. But I just never watched it again. I remember being confused. I watched it again 5 days ago, and I hated it even more. It's one of those movies, like you said, I'm not a fan of movies being weird for the sake of being weird. This is absolutely one of those movies.
And it's not like, because I think like Terry Gilliam does some like more like cinematic poems to where kind of like Tree of Life and more.
You mean Terrence Malick?
Terrence Malick, jeez.
Yeah.
Who did I say?
Terry Gilliam. I was like the Monty Python guy?
Fuck it.
Fucking Life of Brian? Is that what you're talking about?
Anyway, Terrence Malick. Same person. Fucking same person.
Oh, man.
The
Peter Farrelly. Yeah.
Joel Ethan. You mean Joel Eaton? Two totally different people.
Yeah.
But like cinematic poems towards like kind of elicit a feeling, or you're supposed to like experience emotions throughout it, to where
Tree Life is a good example.
Yeah, and that I can understand. I can get that.
Yeah.
Again, when I watched this one, this was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand it then. I was with it, I think, about 70%, 60% of the way through the movie.
Yeah.
And there's like the last part of it I felt like just went off the rails, to where, and I don't remember much about it. Other than I remember two parents coming underneath the door crack.
Yep.
Or something. It's just, what the fuck is, what?
It's nonsense.
It's
the whole
fucking
thing is
ridiculous.
It's fucking nonsense. So I'll give you a summary of what it's about to the best of my abilities. So please bear with me. But essentially, Naomi Watts is in it. She's great, by the way. This is again why it's so weird. And David Lynch movies are weird. He'll have phenomenal actors like Dennis Hopper in Blue Velvet, or oh crap, what's his name? Kyle MacLachlan. And in this movie, Naomi Watts, far and above and away the better actors in the movie. And then he'll have just weirdos in the movie. He
has Robert Forster in this movie.
Right.
I mean,
he's good in it. But like, then he'll insert a no-name person that just looks weird, or someone he's related to play a meaningful part in the movie, and you get the dichotomy of the performances is so off. It's so weird. Anyway, so Naomi Watts plays Betty, if I remember right. Betty, and then I can't remember the other actress's name.
Laura Harring.
Laura Harring plays
Rita.
So Rita's in a car crash and has amnesia. She stumbles upon Betty's house. Betty tries to aid Rita in trying to figure out what's going on. Why do you have amnesia? And then it just goes into this weird offshoot scenes of there's a guy in a diner who has a weird dream, goes out to the back, gets scared by a homeless person and collapses and dies. Then it cuts to a scene of a director played by Justin Theroux.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to cast his movie. There's inner workings with the mob. The mob's forcing him to cast a certain person in it. He doesn't want to, so they cut funding to the film, and then he goes. I have a scene of the cowboy. It's like the most infamous scene, most out of nowhere scene in the movie, to where I don't understand the context of the cowboy and what the purpose of. It's fucking weird. It's so weird. So there's that going on. He's trying to cast his movie. Meanwhile, Rita is trying to help. Crap, I already forgot the name. Betty. Sorry. Yeah. Betty is trying to help Rita figure out why she has amnesia. For whatever reason, they go to this diner where she's reminded of another name, Diane something. So they look her up in the phone book. They go to her apartment. Lady's apartment they go to, they're like, oh no, I switched apartments with Diane so-and-so. She lives in this apartment. So then they go to that apartment, Jay. They find a dead woman on the bed. They freak out. For whatever reason, Rita decides to disguise herself with a blonde wig. They go back to Betty's apartment. They have sex. So Naomi Watts and Laura, what's her name? Haring have like a pretty intense lesbian sex scene for no reason. And then it fades to black. and then they wake up and Betty is like, I need to go to see this concert or whatever, this club. I need to go to this club to see this concert. And I have another clip where they just go into this hall, Jay, this like opera hall, and they listen to this lady sing. And they start sobbing in the audience because her song is so beautiful. And then for whatever reason, the singer stops singing. The song is still going because it's playback. She's not actually singing, collapses and dies. And then the movie cuts again to, okay, I'm trying my best to explain this. Cuts to black to where Naomi Watts wakes up to where she's not Betty. She's actually this Diane person that they were trying to find and was the dead lady that they found in the apartment. She walks out of the apartment, and then you realize that Rita is actually Justin Theroux's like wife and is starring in the movie that he's casting. And turns out that Naomi Watts' character is like a discouraged actress who can't get parts and is in love with Justin Theroux's wife. And then she realizes that she can't have her. So she goes into depression, and the movie ends. I have the ending scene here too, to where she hallucinates for whatever reason by these two, like the two old people you're talking about that creak up. So there's a knock on the door. It's these two old people that just barge in and like start screaming at her for whatever reason. She hallucinates and gets so overcome with emotion, she takes a gun and kills herself. Then the movie ends. It's so fucking nonsensical and weird, Jay, that just you watch the movie, you get angry, nothing relates to anything else. And it's just weird for the sake of being weird. And you kind of understand how the story is supposed to thread together with the amnesia aspect, and kind of like Memento, to where you're trying to piece, oh, I see, she's been dreaming this the whole time, or whatever the case may be. But it just doesn't work. It's so weird and absolutely confusing.
So, and because it doesn't work, I mean, I think a couple things happen with this. And again, I need to rewatch it again because I hate shitting on something that I saw 20 years ago and just was so frustrated by it I didn't want to watch it again.
You can. Just let me know what you think.
I think there's a little bit, because I mean, this is a very celebrated movie.
I know.
And I feel like every person with their head up their own ass loves this movie because either it makes them feel smart or they can just be one of those, oh, you don't get it kind of a thing.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those, the Emperor's clothes. The Emperor's not wearing any clothes. Like it's just one of, like, I don't know what he was trying to accomplish. Again, I haven't looked into this movie at all as far as trying to understand the meaning because I didn't care. The movie wasn't interesting enough to me, or at least sparked anything inside my head that made me want to find out more. So it failed on that aspect.
Let me give you an explanation. So this is an explanation of David Lynch. Lynch has declined to offer an explanation of his intentions for the narrative, leaving audiences, critics, and cast members to speculate on what transpires. He gave the film the tagline, "A love story in the city of dreams."
Yeah.
What?
Bullshit. So here's another.
What?
Here's another. An excerpt from David Lynch, The Man from Another Place.
Okay.
A book by Dennis Lim. In it, the author mentions how much Lynch despises the interpretation of his work. He writes, "Writing about David Lynch, it could be hard not to hear his voice in your head, protesting the violence being done to his work. As soon as you put things in words, no one ever sees the film the same way," he once told me. "And that's what I hate, you know? Talking. It's real dangerous."
What?
That's what
Lynch said.
Yeah, that's what Lynch said.
Talking's dangerous.
Apparently,
boy.
Don't misinterpret my work. How about you make something that makes fucking sense instead of acting like a tortured artist to where. But here's another thing. Apparently, this is David Lynch's 10 clues to unlocking this thriller.
Oh, please. I would love to hear this.
This comes from IMDb, so this could have been updated by your mom for all we know.
Right. It's updated by you, right, Jack?
By me. Pay particular attention in the beginning of the film. At least 2 clues are revealed before the credits.
Okay.
Clues to what?
Yeah, clues to what? I don't know what that means.
Number 2, notice appearances of the red lampshade. Number 3, can you hear the title of the film that Adam Kesher is auditioning actresses for? Is it mentioned again? An accident is a terrible event. Notice the location of the accident. Who gives a key and why? Notice the robe, the ashtray, the coffee cup. What is felt, realized, and gathered at the Club Silencio? Did talent alone help Camila? Fucking names.
You with names.
I can't just be fucking Jessica. Notice the occurrences surrounding the man behind Winkies. Where is Aunt Ruth? So, did that help you?
No. Not in the slightest.
So,
oh boy.
Again, and I could be dumb as shit. I probably am. I'm sure I'm stupid. But it's like, who did he fucking make this for? 20,000 people?
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe.
I don't know.
And
satisfy his own
something. Like it just seems
desires.
It seems elitist. It seems douchey.
Yeah.
For lack of a better word. To where he thought this, I mean, and I don't think I've seen any of his other work, because this was the first movie, because I think the reason why I saw this in college, if I can remember correctly, is someone said, oh, have you seen do you like David Lynch movies? And I'm like, oh, don't know. Like, oh, he did Twin Peaks. And I'm like, I think I saw Twin Peaks. I was like, I think I saw Twin Peaks when I was in high school. I just remember being weird. It's like, watch Mulholland Drive. That's like his, I mean, of course it just came out. And people were like, oh, this is amazing and everything else. And I watched Mulholland Drive. And like, if you like Mulholland Drive, you like David Lynch. I did not like Mulholland Drive, so I did not watch another David Lynch thing again.
He has the ability to make a story that's coherent, that you can follow, that's good, that has plot and a reason.
I'm sure he does.
He made a movie called The Elephant Man that I've seen that's actually very good. It had Anthony Hopkins and John Hurt. It's very good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm sure, and I'm not saying he's a dog shit filmmaker, because I think to be able to make a piece of shit like this and to have it
be critically viable,
critically acclaimed, it's not. It's like when like impressionistic art, where people just throw shit on the canvas, and some people look at it and they're like, "Oh, this is amazing," and then other people look at it like, "No, it looks like a bunch of fucking paint." And I'm not saying like some people don't get this movie, but I feel like I think maybe some people react to this movie and they like it because of it. But you could also get you can get an impressionist artist to throw shit on a canvas and have it be considered art, and you can get Joe Blow off the street, do the same thing, and it won't be considered art.
Right.
So there is some skill and technique behind what he's doing, I'm sure, because it is watching it up until it starts flying off the fucking rails. Watching it, I am entertained up until that point. And then once it just starts going batshit left, then it loses me, and by the time I get to the end, nothing's resolved. I mean, you don't get anything more. You're just left confused.
Yeah.
And you're left wondering what the fuck you just watched. And are you supposed to feel anger? Because, I mean, that's what I felt. Or indifference. I mean, what was the purpose? And to have the director then come say, nothing. Don't interpret it. I hate it when people try and interpret my shit. Be more clear. And your messaging is what you're trying to do. Because other than that, I take it as you're just trying to fuck with people, or you're not you are not succeeding in your goal. If you if you don't like people misinterpreting your stuff, then you are not accomplishing your mission when you make a film. And because if you make something, unless you want to make it open to interpretation, but you can't have it both ways. You can be obscure to try and get an audience. Oh, I want an audience to come up with their own thing, be moved by whatever it is that they're seeing, which I can get from like Tree of Life or something like that. But something that is kind of positioned as like a mystery, and because mysteries tend to, have a story and a plot.
And a conclusion that you understand.
And it has like some kind of meaning, especially like, because this movie, when I first watched it, felt very noir-esque.
Yeah, it
and with noir as a genre, you typically have other sublying themes that are consistent within the noir genre. I mean, this was lost.
Absolutely.
On me completely.
Can I go through some clips here real quick?
God damn it.
This is good. Right. So this is a scene where Justin Theroux's character meets the infamous cowboy. The dialogue and the reason behind this, it's a mystery to me. It's one of those out of left field scenes that just, I feel like this movie is just a strung together chorus of scenes that just don't make sense and they don't relate to one another. Anyway, here we go.
Howdy to you.
Beautiful evening.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for coming all the way up here to see me from that nice hotel downtown.
No problem. What's on your mind?
Well, now, here's a man who wants to get right down to it. Kind of anxious to get to it, are you?
Whatever.
A man's attitude goes some ways, the way his life will be. Is that something you might agree with?
Sure.
Now, did you answer because that's what you thought I wanted to hear? Or did you think about what I said and answer because you truly believe that to be right?
I agree with what you said. Truly.
What'd I say?
That a man's attitude determines to a large extent how his life will be.
So since you agree, you must be a person who does not care about the good life.
How's that?
Well, stop for a little second and think about it. Can you do that for me?
Okay. I'm thinking.
No, you're not thinking. You're too busy being a smart aleck to be thinking. Now I want you to think and stop being a smart aleck. Can you try that for me?
Look, where's this going? What do you want me to do?
There's sometimes a buggy. How many drivers does a buggy have?
One.
So let's just say I'm driving this buggy, and if you fix your attitude, you can ride along with me.
Okay.
I want you to go back to work tomorrow. You were recasting the lead actress anyway. Auditioned many girls for the part. When you see the girl that was shown to you earlier today, you will say, "This is the girl." The rest of the cast can stay. That's up to you. But that lead girl is not up to you. Now you...
All right, I can't do it anymore. I mean, what? So, two issues. One, that dialogue is nonsensical and just fucking stupid. Two, this scene doesn't have Naomi Watts' character or Laura Harding's character in it. I feel like if you're going to go through this amnesia viewpoint of trying to figure out what's going on, they would need to be in every scene because they're not in it.
As the audience, you're discovering the story along with the amnesia. Yeah.
What does this have to
That's
do
your
with that?
portal of, yeah.
It doesn't have to do with anything. It's just an excuse to be obscure.
Mm-hmm.
And the actor who's delivering these lines as the cowboy is awful. Awful. It's terrible.
Yeah.
That's the whole movie.
I'm not a fan of it.
It's awful. Oh, another good clip here.
Oh.
This is a scene where, remember when I told you that they have sex and they wake up and they're like, we got to go watch the singer. This scene lasts for 6 minutes.
The sex scene?
No. The scene where they go to the
singer
to watch the singer. It's literally a scene that is 6 minutes long. You are listening to this lady sing. It's just her with a single spotlight. They're the only two in the audience, and they're sobbing. They're so overcome with emotion about how beautiful this song is. It's 6 minutes long, but I'm just going to play 30 seconds of it.
I'm just going to play 5.5 minutes
to let you know that this scene is 6 minutes long with this. Yeah. 6 minutes of that.
I'm sobbing.
And there's close-ups of Naomi Watts, and they're just so overcome with joy or emotion, and it's like, what's that supposed to represent? I'm trying to understand. What does that represent? Why even have that in there?
Well, I mean, people in Hollywood are a lot smarter than us, and I'm sure, I don't know, we can't be the only ones thinking. Like,
I don't know.
It's obtuse for being sake of being obtuse.
Yeah.
And
obtuse.
So like Justin Theroux, I'm sure is very tough. Maybe he got it. Maybe we could write him a letter or something. But I feel like he'd be in his trailer, or like,
I mean, the guy who wrote Tropic Thunder gets it.
Like, he wanted to. I'm sure there's probably he told us that I'd love to be in a David Lynch movie.
Yeah.
And then he gets the script and he's like, the fuck? Like, you think some of these actors like read the script and like, or they see the finished product, they're at the premiere, they sit down and they watch it and they're like, what the fuck? All right, well, I guess this isn't going to be the career boost I thought it was going to be.
Right.
Because, I mean, Justin Theroux, around that time, was it 2001?
2001.
I mean, he had already done American Psycho. He had a small, like a co-starring role in that. He
definitely wasn't at the status he is now.
Yeah. And, oh no. Maybe they all got it and we're just two dummies. And
do you really think
sitting in a fucking basement?
It's like at 72, 80% of Rotten Tomatoes are now critic score. Do you really think that
that I think is the Emperor's Clothes. I think for the general audience that love this movie, I cannot see why they do. And if their only response is, "Oh, you don't get it," great, fucking explain it to me,
please.
By all means.
Could you write it down?
Let me know what this movie means.
You could even write it in crayon so that I understand it.
Exactly.
Draw pictures.
Yeah, small words and nice pictures. But I think a lot of, I mean, I feel like, and this could be me projecting, but I feel like a lot of the people who say, "Oh, this is a fantastic film," and blah, blah, I mean, technically speaking, it's the cinematography, the production design, some of the acting is well done. It's not like shot with a camcorder or anything like. Technically, it's a very good movie from the technical aspects of filmmaking, but minus maybe editing. But I feel like a lot of the people, and again, I'm probably projecting, are saying they like it because they want to feel like they're smart. They don't want to feel like the dummy. So the Emperor's Clothes effect, to where, oh yeah, oh, it's so great, just to make them seem more interesting. Sorry, but what you like doesn't make you interesting. If you're interesting, you're interesting. Not just because you like a fucking movie doesn't mean you're interesting.
Right. So I really wasn't going to date that guy, but then he told me he liked Mulholland Drive, and
yeah. Oh, he's so much deeper than I am.
God, he's deep.
And so I don't know where it's coming from. And it's on Criterion. I mean, it's celebrated. It's critically acclaimed. I'd like to know why.
Yeah.
Like, what's the like I would not be surprised if everyone kind of got together that loved this movie, and then you just had the first person with the biggest balls sitting in the circle, and he's like, "Guys, I really didn't like it, and I didn't understand what the fuck was going on." And then it's just like a cascading effect. Everyone's like, "Oh fuck yeah, me too, man! God, this thing was fucking weird, wasn't it?" And then everyone just realized, "Oh, no one got it," and I wouldn't be surprised in the least if that was just like, I'm waiting for some kind of film critic just to write an article on like Screen Culture, or like some Hollywood reporter would be like, Mulholland Drive after 20 years.
Yeah.
Guess what? It fucking sucks.
Right.
Like,
well, they always write articles about movies that need a second chance. They're actually cult classics. Like they didn't get a good go when it first was originally released, and they're awesome. Mm-hmm. They never do it the other way around.
Yeah. Let's take a hard look at this, guys. Like, exactly. Is this good?
Yeah. This is up there. This is the movie. Man. Anyway, that's my number one.
Yeah, it's my number one.
It's an awful
fucking
movie.
Piece of shit.
But you can watch it again if you want, but I'm telling you. It's a waste of time.
It would have to be a time to where I have nothing to do. Like, really nothing to do. And it can't be late at night. Mm-hmm. Because I'll probably just say fuck it, turn. And I think I have to be in a good mood before I watch this, because I saw the $3.99 and I'm like, God damn it, I got to pay money for this. And then I saw the 2.5 hour runtime and I'm like, motherfucker, it's 8 o'clock.
Yeah, so it's got to be 11
o'clock.
o'clock.
Like, of course it's 2.5 fucking hours. It can't be an hour and a half. I was like, oh, I need all 2.5 hours of this shit.
Conditions have to be perfect for Jay. It's got to be 11 o'clock on a Sunday. No kids. He's had his coffee in him.
Yeah.
He's had some breakfast.
And I got to be happy. Because I know if I'm irritated about something, or if my mind is somewhere else, or if I'm just generally not happy that day, it's going to affect the way I see the movie.
Yeah.
Because some movies that I watch and I enjoy, I'll watch depending on what my mood is. Like, I'm in the mood for this kind of a movie.
I do the same thing.
Like, if I think the movie's going to piss me off, I feel like I need to be happier to experience it, because I know it's going to take me down a couple of levels by the end of it. Or I don't want to have that leading into the movie already with a negative attitude before I try and re-experience it again. Because I know as soon as the opening credits, or like the first couple scenes in the opening credits, like, fucking this thing is a piece of shit. And then I'll just be pissed off the rest of the movie.
Well, if you follow the list, Jay.
I'm going to have that list on hand.
Yeah.
I'm going to have that list of his advice on how to interpret the movie. Yeah. And then right next to that is going to be his quote about how he doesn't like people talking about interpreting his movies.
Wait, so he made that list? The 10...
according to it was on IMDb. Again, is probably...
Because he's contradicting himself. If he made the list on how to interpret it, and
contradicting? People don't do that.
Now he's just fucking with you. Remember that time when I told you how to interpret it? I want to make a list of how to interpret it.
Like, I feel like he pitches it to producers, and like he shows up in his like most ass hattery clothes, to where he's like got like an ascot and wearing a fucking bowler hat or something like that, and he's like a flowing cloak and a cape, and he's like, I want to make a film, Mulholland Drive. Here's the script. And they're like, oh, David Lynch, you're very good, but
you're very eccentric.
You understand this? No, fucking print it. It's David Lynch. Very good.
He made Twin Peaks.
To where he's like, I'm just gonna fuck with people.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, not gonna lie, if I had that kind of power, I'd probably do that too. Yeah. Like, I'd at least make one thing. Like, if I was a film director, I mean, I am that kind of a person to where I'd make something that would just be so weird and be like, oh, well, what do you think? Like, I'd do that just to fuck with somebody.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'd actually release it, but I think I would play that kind of joke on somebody, or I like to kind of make people feel like assholes or dumbasses from time to time. But
well, if you got the David Lynch's status, at that point in his career, he'd been doing movies for like 30 years, so maybe he did get to that point.
Yeah, and people say this is one of his masterpieces. I'm like, masterpiece of shit. But
And almost won the Palme d'Or at Cannes.
Palm of my hand.
Palm.
Masturbating.
Be more enjoyable. Yeah.
All right. Yep.
Anyway.
That's our top 5.
Yep.
Let's run through them really quick.
Let's do it.
You do 5 through 3. I'll do 5 through 3, and then because we had the same 2 and 1.
Yep. 5 to 3. Killing Them Softly. Number 4, No Country for Old Men. Number 3, Primer.
Number 5, The Shining. Number 4, 2001: Space Odyssey. Number 3, Donnie Darko. And then our number 2 was Tenet.
Yep.
And our number 1 was Mulholland Drive.
Great lists.
Yeah.
There you go, Nicole. Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Hey,
enjoy
Jinx,
that
you owe me a
show.
Coke, goddammit.
God, fuck. So, but yeah, thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show.
Yes.
Join us next time as we discuss Weird, the Al Yankovic story. So don't forget to tune in for that episode. And as always, you can comment on our episodes and write to our email, acastwithnoname.com. It's in the description, everything else. Did you like Mulholland Drive? Did you understand it? Please fucking tell us.
Please.
Like, if we're idiots and we completely missed the mark, please tell us where we're wrong.
I would love to hear it, and we will talk about it if you comment on it.
Yeah.
For sure.
And if someone comments on it, why they liked it, I will rewatch the movie to see if you're full of shit or not, and to see if it holds water. So that way, since you've seen it recently,
Yes.
then I can see it recently. Then we could at least respond to whatever you write. So please, write to, if you liked Mulholland Drive, or you understood it, or what's your take on it, or whatever. Just let us know. Because until I hear otherwise, I
If
think
for
it's
anything,
fucking nonsense.
to make Jay watch it again.
But yeah. So again, hope you enjoyed the show.
Till next time, Jay.
Till next time, Matt.